The mockery. The conference hall on Station Zenith 7 stretched across 3 kilometers of reinforced titanium and crystalline viewing ports. It floated in neutral space, equidistant from the territories of the galaxy's 7 major powers. This station had witnessed countless negotiations, treaties, and declarations over its 4,000-year existence. Today, it would witness something that would be remembered for far longer. Ambassador Elena Cross stood in the central speaking chamber, a circular platform that descended from the ceiling on gravitational stabilizers. Around her, rising in concentric circles like an ancient amphitheater, sat the representatives of civilizations that had conquered stars while humanity was still learning to forge bronze. The lighting was deliberately harsh, designed to make petitioners feel small and exposed. Elena felt neither. She was 58 years old, with steel gray hair pulled back in a practical bun and eyes that had seen 3 decades of diplomatic service. She wore a simple navy uniform with minimal decoration, just a small Earth insignia on her collar. Her delegation consisted of only 4 people, while other species arrived with entourages numbering in the hundreds. The Vordani occupied the largest section of the chamber. They were a species that stood nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms ending in taloned hands and exoskeletons that gleamed like polished obsidian. Their empire spanned 2,000 star systems, and they had not lost a military engagement in 6 centuries. War Executor Xanthir led their delegation, his rank markers indicating he commanded fleets that could sterilize planets. Beside the Vordani sat the Kelthir collective, beings of energy contained in crystalline matrices. Next to them were the Draxan, reptilian warriors whose culture valued strength above all else. The Minthra Confederacy sent their hive-mind representatives, speaking in perfect unison. The remaining 3 powers watched with varying degrees of interest and contempt. Elena activated the holographic display. Images appeared throughout the chamber, showing Earth's achievements since making first contact with galactic civilization 37 years ago. Cities built on Mars and Europa. Mining operations in the asteroid belt. A small fleet of defensive vessels orbiting the home world. The United Earth government requests full membership in the Galactic Concordat, Elena began, her voice carried by translation systems to every delegate in their native language. In the 4 decades since first contact, humanity has established peaceful relations with 17 species. We have contributed to medical research, shared our cultural archives, and maintained strict adherence to all galactic protocols regarding territorial boundaries and resource extraction. She gestured, and the display changed to show Earth's defensive capabilities. 23 orbital platforms. 41 patrol vessels. Ground-based missile systems. Energy shields protecting major population centers. Our defensive fleet stands ready to contribute to collective security operations as outlined in the Concordat Charter. We have the industrial capacity to. Laughter interrupted her. It started with the Vordani delegation, a sound like grinding metal that their translators rendered as deep, mocking amusement. War Executor Xanthir leaned forward in his elevated seat, his 4 arms gesturing dismissively. "Forgive me, Ambassador Cross," he said, his voice resonating through the chamber. "But did you just describe 41 vessels as a fleet? My personal escort consists of 70 warships. The Vordani Empire maintains a standing military force of 120,000 vessels of war." More laughter rippled through the chamber. The Draxan delegation hissed their approval. Even the normally reserved Kelthir dimmed their energy matrices in what Elena recognized as their equivalent of condescending amusement. "Perhaps the human does not understand the scale of galactic civilization," offered High Counselor Drath of the Draxan Supremacy. His scaled face twisted into something resembling a smile. "Ambassador, your entire species occupies 1 star system. 1. The youngest species in this chamber controls 47 systems. You are not seeking membership. You are seeking charity." Elena stood quietly, her expression unchanged. She had expected this. Earth's intelligence services had provided detailed psychological profiles of every major species in the Concordat. She knew that displaying anger or frustration would only reinforce their perception of human weakness. "The Concordat Charter makes no specification regarding the size of a species' military," she replied calmly. "It requires only that prospective members demonstrate peaceful intent, technological competency, and the ability to contribute to collective defense. Earth meets all these criteria." The charter was written when the weakest species in the galaxy controlled at least 10 star systems, Xanthir countered. He rose from his seat, his full height impressive even by Vordani standards. "Tell me, Ambassador, what would your 41 ships do if the Vordani Empire decided your presence in this galaxy was an insult? How would you contribute to collective defense when you cannot even defend yourselves?" The chamber fell silent. Every delegate understood what was happening. The Vordani were testing humanity, probing for weakness, establishing dominance. It was how they operated, how they had always operated. Species that showed strength earned their respect. Species that showed weakness became their subjects. Elena met Xanthir's gaze without flinching. The United Earth government has no desire for conflict with the Vordani Empire or any other Concordat member. We seek only peaceful coexistence and mutual cooperation. Peaceful coexistence, Xanthir repeated, his tone dripping with contempt. The galaxy does not grant peaceful coexistence to those too weak to enforce it. Let me educate you about reality, human. Your species is an anomaly. You achieved faster-than-light travel through luck and stumbled into a galaxy you do not understand. You have no right to membership in this body. You have no right to be here at all. He turned to address the full assembly. I propose we deny Earth's petition for membership. Furthermore, I propose we restrict human expansion beyond their current system. They may exist, but they will exist as they are now, confined and irrelevant. Seconded, came the immediate response from the Draxan delegation. The vote was swift. 6 of the 7 major powers supported the motion. Only the Minthra Confederacy abstained, and they were known to abstain from everything on principle. The decision was final. Humanity would remain isolated, forbidden from expanding, relegated to the status of a curiosity that the galaxy occasionally acknowledged but never took seriously. The matter is settled, announced Chancellor Vex, the station's neutral arbiter. Earth's petition is denied. Human expansion beyond the Sol system is prohibited indefinitely. Elena absorbed this without visible reaction. I see. May I ask one question before we conclude? Chancellor Vex consulted briefly with the other delegates. You may. What happens if we refuse to comply with this restriction? The chamber went quiet again, but this time the silence carried a different quality. Tension. Anticipation. Several delegates leaned forward in their seats. Xanthir's mandibles spread in what Elena had learned was a Vordani expression of predatory satisfaction. Then the galaxy will teach you the consequences of defiance. I will personally ensure that humanity learns its place. I understand, Elena said. Thank you for clarifying the Concordat's position. She touched a control on her wrist, and the holographic displays vanished. Her small delegation began gathering their materials. To the assembled powers of the galaxy, it looked like retreat. Acceptance of defeat. Exactly what Elena wanted them to see. Before you go, Xanthir called out, know that the Vordani Empire claims territorial rights to the human colony you established at Terra Nova. You have 72 hours to evacuate all personnel from that system. After that time, any humans found there will be considered hostile invaders and dealt with accordingly. Terra Nova. Earth's first and only extrasolar colony. 300,000 people who had spent 15 years building a new world. 300,000 lives. Xanthir was threatening with the casual indifference of someone swatting an insect. Elena turned back to face him. For the first time since entering the chamber, she allowed herself a small smile. It was not a friendly expression. War Executor, I will relay your message to my government. I suspect they will find it very illuminating. Something in her tone made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. The Kelthir collective pulsed with confused patterns. Even Xanthir seemed momentarily uncertain, though he quickly covered it with another display of contempt. See that you do, human. 72 hours. Not 1 second more. Elena and her delegation left the chamber without another word. They walked through corridors filled with representatives from dozens of species, all of whom now looked at the humans with a mixture of pity and dismissal. The Earth delegation's vessel was small compared to the massive diplomatic ships surrounding it, barely larger than a standard cargo transport. Once aboard and clear of the station, Elena's aide, Commander James Park, finally spoke. They actually did it. They threatened Terra Nova. They did exactly what we predicted they would do, Elena replied, moving to the secure communications station. James, send a priority alpha transmission to Earth Defense Command. Authorization code Sentinel-9. That's the War Protocol's authorization. I know what it is. Send it. The message took 3 minutes to compose, heavily encrypted with quantum keys that would decay after a single reading. Elena wrote carefully, knowing that what she transmitted would set events in motion that could not be stopped. Diplomatic integration failed as anticipated. Vordani aggression confirmed. Terra Nova threatened with military action within 72 hours. Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol Nightfall. The galaxy has made its choice. She sent the message and leaned back in her chair, feeling the weight of what was coming. 37 years ago, when humanity made first contact with the Galactic Concordat, they had been welcomed with curiosity. That curiosity had quickly turned to condescension when the galaxy realized how young and weak humanity was. Earth scientists and diplomats had spent those decades carefully studying galactic civilization, learning everything they could about the species that surrounded them. They had learned that the galaxy was old, ancient, comfortable in its power. The 7 major species had been fighting each other in the same ways for thousands of years, with the same weapons, the same tactics, the same thinking. Their technology had plateaued centuries ago because they had no reason to advance. They dominated absolutely. Innovation was unnecessary when you already controlled everything. Humanity had no such luxury. Humans had always been the underdog, always fighting for survival against longer odds than any species in the galaxy could imagine. And humans had learned something that the Concordat had forgotten over millennia of dominance. Necessity drives innovation in ways that comfort never can. James, Elena said quietly, how long until we're clear of Concordat sensor range? 17 minutes at current speed. Once we're clear, plot a jump directly to Terra Nova. Maximum speed. We won't arrive before the Vordani fleet. I know. But we need to be there for what comes after. James studied his commander's face, seeing something there that made him choose his next words carefully. Elena, what did Earth build while the Concordat wasn't watching? Elena turned to look out the viewport at the stars, at the vast emptiness that the galaxy believed it understood completely. Something they never imagined we could, she said. Something that's going to teach them that underestimating humanity was the worst mistake they ever made. 72 hours. The countdown had begun. In the Vordani capital system of Xanther Prime, War Executor Xanther returned from the conference with satisfaction warming his exoskeleton. The humans had been properly humiliated. Their pathetic petition denied. Their expansion forbidden. And soon, very soon, he would demonstrate what happened to species that occupied territory the Vordani desired. He assembled his personal fleet. 500 warships, each one capable of reducing a planet to ash. Far more than necessary to claim a single undefended colony, but Xanther wanted to make a statement. The galaxy needed to see what happened when the Vordani gave an order and lesser species failed to comply. His tactical officers were enthusiastic. A chance for glory, for promotion, for adding another conquered world to their service records. They plotted their course to Terra Nova with the confidence of warriors who had never known defeat. None of them noticed the anomalous readings their long-range sensors briefly detected. A gravitational fluctuation in deep space, precisely the kind of signature a ship might make when engaging experimental drive systems. The readings were dismissed as sensor ghosts, minor glitches in equipment that had functioned perfectly for centuries. The Vordani fleet departed exactly on schedule, their formation perfect, their weapons ready, their certainty absolute. In the empty space where the anomaly had appeared, something waited in silence. Something patient. Something that had learned a very important lesson about warfare. The best weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming. The Reckoning. The Vordani armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Terra Nova system like a swarm of mechanical predators. 500 warships, their hulls gleaming with the distinctive black and crimson markings of the Vordani Empire, arranged themselves in a formation that had terrorized countless civilizations across 6 centuries of conquest. Each vessel bristled with weapons capable of cracking continents. Together, they carried enough destructive power to sterilize a dozen worlds. War Executor Xanther stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance, watching the tactical displays update with information about the system ahead. Terra Nova orbited a stable yellow star much like Earth's sun. The colony itself occupied the 3rd planet, a world of green forests and blue oceans that humanity had spent 15 years terraforming into a second home. Sensor report, Xanther commanded. His operations officer, a veteran named Krell, worked the instruments with practiced efficiency. Colony population approximately 300,000. Minimal orbital infrastructure. 2 defensive satellites, outdated model. No military vessels detected within the system. War Executor, they are completely defenseless. Xanther's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. As expected. The humans have 72 hours to evacuate. We gave them fair warning. Have they responded to our presence? Yes, War Executor. We are receiving a transmission from the planetary governor. Put it through. The holographic display shimmered, showing the face of a human male who appeared to be in his early 60s. Governor Marcus Stone had built his reputation as a colonial administrator, transforming Terra Nova from an empty world into a thriving settlement. His expression showed no fear, which Xanther found mildly interesting. War Executor Xanther, Stone said, his voice steady. I am Governor Marcus Stone of Terra Nova Colony. I acknowledge receipt of your 72-hour evacuation order. Excellent. Then you understand the situation. Your presence here is no longer permitted. Comply with our timeline, and your people will be allowed to leave peacefully. I understand your position, Stone replied carefully. However, evacuating 300,000 people requires significant logistical coordination. Our transport capacity is limited. 72 hours may not be sufficient. Xanthir leaned closer to the display. Then I suggest you prioritize, Governor. Save those you can. Leave behind those you cannot. The Vordani Empire is not known for extending deadlines. I see. And if we refuse to abandon our homes? The question hung in the air between them. Krell and the other bridge officers turned to watch their commander's response. Then your homes become your tombs, Xanthir said simply. I have been authorized to use whatever force necessary to claim this system. I have 500 warships under my command. You have none. The mathematics of this situation are quite simple, Governor. Stone was quiet for a moment, seeming to consider his options. Finally, he nodded slowly. I will begin evacuation procedures immediately. I hope the Vordani Empire is proud of displacing 300,000 innocent people from their homes. The Vordani Empire takes no pride in this, Xanthir replied, though his tone suggested otherwise. We simply take what is ours. You have 72 hours, Governor. Use them wisely. The transmission ended. Xanthir turned to his officers, feeling the familiar satisfaction of a mission proceeding exactly as planned. The humans would scramble, panic, and ultimately flee. The galaxy would see footage of their desperate evacuation and understand the cost of defying Vordani authority. It would be a perfect demonstration of power. Maintain position at the system's edge, he ordered. Deploy sensor nets. I want to know immediately if any human vessels attempt to enter or leave the system. The fleet settled into its blockade formation. Hours passed. Long-range sensors showed increased activity on Terra Nova's surface as the colonists began their evacuation. Ships launched from the main spaceport, overcrowded with refugees. The sight pleased Xanthir. Everything was proceeding smoothly. Then, 37 hours into the deadline, something changed. War Executor, Krell called out, his voice carrying an unfamiliar note of uncertainty. We have a contact. Single vessel entering the system. Xanthir moved to study the tactical display. A single ship had appeared at the system's opposite edge, precisely where sensors were weakest. It was small, perhaps 1/10 the size of his flagship, with a hull configuration he did not recognize. Identification? Unknown, War Executor. The hull signature does not match any vessel in our databases. The design is unusual. Unusual was an understatement. The ship on the display was unlike anything Xanthir had encountered in 3 centuries of military service. Its hull was perfectly smooth, with no visible weapons ports, no engine exhausts, no sensor arrays. It was a dark gray that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The vessel moved through space with impossible grace, its trajectory suggesting propulsion systems that violated everything Xanthir knew about physics. Hail them, Xanthir ordered. The communications officer worked his console. Channel open, War Executor. They are responding. The holographic display activated, showing a human woman in a dark blue uniform. She appeared to be in her mid-40s, with sharp features and eyes that assessed the situation with unsettling calm. Her rank insignia indicated admiral status in Earth's defense forces. War Executor Xanthir, she said, her voice carrying none of the fear or desperation he expected. I am Admiral Sarah Nakamura of the Earth Defense Force. I'm here to discuss the situation at Terra Nova. Xanthir felt a flicker of annoyance. There is nothing to discuss, Admiral. Your government was given clear instructions. This system now belongs to the Vordani Empire. Actually, War Executor, that's where you're mistaken. This system belongs to humanity. We discovered it. We colonized it. We built a civilization here over 15 years of hard work. The Galactic Concordat may have denied our petition for membership, but nowhere in Concordat law does it grant you authority to seize our legitimate territory. The Concordat grants authority to those strong enough to enforce it, Xanthir replied. You have 1 ship, Admiral. I have 500. Your legal arguments are irrelevant in the face of overwhelming force. Nakamura smiled slightly, and something about that expression made Krell shift uncomfortably at his station. You're absolutely right about one thing, War Executor. Legal arguments are irrelevant here. This comes down to a question of force. So let me ask you something. Before you threaten to destroy 300,000 people, before you commit your empire to a course of action you cannot reverse, are you certain you understand what you're facing? Xanthir's patience was wearing thin. I am facing a single unarmed vessel and a desperate admiral attempting to bluff her way out of an impossible situation. I understand perfectly. Do you? Then explain something to me. You've been monitoring Terra Nova for 37 hours. In that time, have you detected any unusual energy readings in the system? The question seemed random, pointless. Xanther glanced at Krell, who quickly consulted his instruments. Negative, Admiral. Our sensors detect nothing unusual. Exactly, Nakamura said. Your sensors detect nothing. Because we built them that way. Before Xanther could respond, the tactical display erupted with new contacts. Ships appeared throughout the system, materializing from empty space as if they had simply decided to become visible. Not 5 or 10 ships. Not 50. 173 vessels, each one matching the strange configuration of Nakamura's flagship, surrounded the Vordani fleet in a perfect sphere. Impossible, Krell whispered. They were not there. Our sensors would have detected them. This is impossible. Xanther stared at the display, his mind racing through explanations. Cloaking technology existed, but not at this scale, not with this effectiveness. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. No species in the galaxy possessed the ability to hide this many ships from military-grade sensors. How? He demanded. That's not the right question, War Executor, Nakamura replied. The right question is why. Why did humanity, a species the Concordat considers weak and irrelevant, develop technology that your sensors cannot detect? Why did we spend 37 years smiling and nodding while the galaxy laughed at us? Why did we accept your contempt without complaint? She paused, letting the questions hang in the air. We did it because we learned something from studying galactic civilization. We learned that you've been fighting the same wars, with the same tactics, using the same technology, for thousands of years. You stopped innovating because you stopped needing to. You became comfortable. Complacent. Certain that your way was the only way. Xanther felt something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty. Fear. His fleet was surrounded by ships he could not have detected, built with technology he did not understand, commanded by a species he had dismissed as primitive. This changes nothing, he said, forcing confidence into his voice. You still cannot match our firepower. 500 Vordani warships against your fleet? You would be destroyed. Would we? Let me show you something. Nakamura touched a control, and the view screen changed to show a moon orbiting the system's 5th planet. Xanther recognized it from the initial survey data. A barren rock of no strategic value, approximately 4,000 kilometers in diameter. That moon is called Fortress Delta in your tactical database, Nakamura said. The Vordani established a military outpost there 6 months ago, violating the territorial boundaries of this system. We objected. You ignored us. Today, that ends. Nakamura's ship, which Xanther had noticed was called the Silent Guardian according to its transponder, rotated slightly. Nothing visible happened. No weapons charged. No energy signatures appeared on sensors. No warning at all. The moon ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a solid body of rock and metal that had orbited its planet for billions of years. The next moment it was gone. Not destroyed in an explosion. Not shattered into fragments. Simply gone, its mass scattered into a dispersing cloud of individual atoms that would fade into the cosmic background over the next few hours. Krell made a sound that Xanther's translator could not process. Several other bridge officers backed away from their stations. On view screens throughout the fleet, Vordani warriors who had never known defeat stared at the empty space where a moon had been. That is impossible, Xanther said, his voice barely a whisper. The energy required to destroy a body that size, it would take more power than a star generates. By your understanding of physics, yes, Nakamura agreed. But War Executor, your understanding is 40,000 years old. Humanity has been a spacefaring species for less than a century. We had to learn fast. We had to think differently. And we had to accept that everything the galaxy knew about warfare was about to become obsolete. She leaned forward slightly, her expression hardening. The weapon that just erased your moon operates on principles your scientists have never imagined. It doesn't use conventional energy. It doesn't fire projectiles. It manipulates fundamental forces at the quantum level, unmaking matter at the atomic scale. And War Executor, the Silent Guardian is one of 17 ships equipped with this weapon system. 17. The number echoed through Xanther's mind. 17 ships that could erase moons, planets, perhaps even stars, with no warning and no defense. What do you want? He asked, the words tasting like defeat. What I want is very simple. You will withdraw your fleet from this system immediately. You will return to Vordani space and inform your government that Terra Nova is and will remain human territory. You will never threaten our colonies again. And you will deliver a message to the Galactic Concordat. What message? Tell them that humanity is done asking for permission. Tell them we will not be confined, will not be restricted, will not accept second-class status in a galaxy we have every right to explore. Tell them that we tried diplomacy and we were laughed at. We tried peace and we were threatened. So now we will simply exist on our own terms, and anyone who objects can learn what happened to Fortress Delta. Admiral Nakamura's image flickered, and for a moment Xanthir saw beyond the stern military commander to the human being underneath. Someone tired. Someone who had carried an enormous burden. We don't want to be your enemies, War Executor. We have no interest in conquest or empire. We just want to be left alone to build our civilization in peace. But if you force us to choose between submission and war, we will choose war. And we will win. Not because we're stronger or more numerous, but because we're willing to do what you've forgotten how to do. We're willing to change. To adapt. To become whatever we must be to survive. She straightened, her expression returning to military formality. You have 1 hour to begin your withdrawal. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war and respond accordingly. I strongly suggest you use that time wisely, War Executor. The galaxy is watching. The transmission ended. Xanthir stood motionless on his command deck, surrounded by officers who looked to him for orders. 500 warships waited for his command. The largest fleet he had ever personally commanded, rendered meaningless by 17 ships and a weapon that rewrote the rules of engagement. He thought about ordering an attack. Thought about calling humanity's bluff. But it was not a bluff. The empty space where Fortress Delta had been proved that beyond any doubt. All ships, he said quietly. Begin withdrawal procedures. Plot a course back to Vordani space. Maximum speed. War Executor? Krell questioned, his voice uncertain. We are retreating? We are surviving, Krell. There is no shame in refusing to fight a battle you cannot win. The Vordani fleet broke formation and began accelerating away from Terra Nova. As they fled, their sensors detected the human ships watching them go, silent and still, letting them leave without interference. Within 6 hours, the system was clear. Within 12 hours, every major government in the galaxy had received the same data packet, carefully leaked through channels that could not be traced. Images of the moon's destruction. Records of the conversation between Nakamura and Xanthir. Analysis from Vordani scientists confirming that the weapon existed and that they had no defense against it. The Galactic Concordat convened an emergency session 48 hours after the Vordani retreat. Ambassador Elena Cross stood once again at the petitioner's platform, wearing the same simple uniform, carrying herself with the same quiet dignity. This time, no one laughed. Ambassador Cross, Chancellor Vex said, his tone carefully neutral. The Concordat has reviewed the recent incident at Terra Nova. We have questions. I'm sure you do, Elena replied calmly. War Executor Xanthir sat in the Vordani section, his exoskeleton still bearing the colors of his rank but his posture diminished. He would not meet Elena's eyes. How many of these weapons does Earth possess? The Draxan High Counselor asked, his earlier contempt replaced by barely concealed fear. Enough, Elena said simply. That is not an answer. It's the only answer you're going to receive. What matters is not how many we have, but what we intend to do with them. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with delegates who had dismissed her so casually just weeks ago. Earth has no desire for conquest. We will not seek to dominate the galaxy or impose our will on other species. But we will also not accept being treated as inferior or being denied the basic rights that every civilization should possess. We will expand. We will explore. We will build colonies wherever we choose. And if anyone attempts to stop us, they will learn the same lesson the Vordani learned at Terra Nova. You threaten the entire Concordat? The Kelthir representative pulsed. No. I'm offering the Concordat a choice. You can treat humanity as equals, as partners worthy of respect, or you can treat us as enemies and face the consequences. The decision is yours. Silence filled the chamber. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia grappled with a reality they had never imagined, a shift in power that invalidated thousands of years of certainty. Finally, Chancellor Vex spoke. The Concordat will need time to consider these developments. Perhaps we should reconvene in. No, Elena interrupted. You had 37 years to consider humanity's place in this galaxy. You made your decision at our last meeting. Now we've made ours. Earth will proceed with our expansion plans regardless of Concordat approval. The only question is whether we do so as members of this body or as an independent power that operates outside your authority. She paused, letting that sink in. I'm told that no species granted observer status has ever been elevated to full membership in the Concordat's history. Today, you can change that history. You can admit that you were wrong, that you underestimated us, and that circumstances have evolved. Or you can maintain your pride and discover what happens when you try to contain a species that refuses to be contained. The vote was taken within the hour. 7 major powers, all voting in favor. The Minthra Confederacy, as expected, abstained. Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Concordat with all rights and privileges. The restrictions on human expansion were lifted. Terra Nova was officially recognized as human territory, as were all future colonies Earth chose to establish. As Elena left the chamber for the second time, she did not smile. There was no satisfaction in having forced respect through fear. But there was grim necessity in having secured humanity's future. Governor Marcus Stone watched from Terra Nova as the last Vordani ships vanished from his system's sensors. His colonists emerged from their shelters, looking up at skies that were suddenly safe again. Children played in parks. Families returned to homes they thought they would lose. Admiral Nakamura stood on the bridge of the Silent Guardian, watching her fleet disperse back into the darkness. 17 ships that had changed everything. 17 weapons that humanity hoped would never need to be used again. But if they were needed, they would be ready. The galaxy had learned 2 lessons in a single week. First, that underestimating humanity was a fatal mistake. Second, that the most dangerous species in the universe was not the strongest or the oldest or the most numerous. It was the one willing to do whatever survival required, the one capable of adapting faster than its enemies could respond, the one that turned weakness into strength through sheer determination and innovation. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's defense. Now the galaxy knew fear. And in that fear, perhaps there was hope for something better. For a future where respect was granted not because of age or power, but because every species, no matter how young or small, deserved the chance to exist on its own terms. Humanity had earned that chance. Now they would see what they could build with it.